So you've read about Profit First and you're ready to dive in and start using it within your business. But before you do, pump the brakes. I want to talk about this for a second. Hey, badass business owners, my name is Tammy and I'm here to help you grow your business, but more importantly, grow those profits. I love the concept of Profit First. I have been preaching about this for years now, ever since I read the book, because I find that it's very helpful to get you into the right mindset to make sure that you are getting paid. And if you've been a long time listener or watcher, you know I'm a huge fan of you getting paid. And part of what happens is a lot of small business owners just running and gunning and just getting everything down, paying their bills, doing this and that. And at the end of the day, they find out that they've paid everybody but themselves. I can't tell you how many times I have spoken to a small business owner like yourself who really feels like they never pay themselves. Sure, they make a little bit of money here and there. They might take a couple $100 every single week. But at the end of the day, they realize they're really not making any money. The other people, their subcontractors, everybody, their employees, whoever, everybody else is making more money than them. And so when they come across Profit First, it sounds so good because in Profit First, you make sure that you get paid first. You make sure that you're able to take some of those profits and put them aside for yourself. And I love that piece for you. I really do. But here's the problem. When Mike Michalowicz, who's the author of Profit First, is talking about it, they talk about all these different accounts. So this way, you're kind of doing a version of Dave Ramsey, but not for debt-free, but for Profit First. But it's very similar because you're kind of making these little envelopes, if you will, but they happen to be bank accounts, and you're going to start putting money into these various accounts. So this way you can have the money you need to be able to operate your business and everything else. There's a lot more to it. And I'm only going to talk about one aspect of it, which is these accounts, because this is where I see the wheels come off a little bit and some issues out there. The concept of paying yourself, I'm absolutely a fan of, okay? The concept of making sure that you know what your budget is for your cost of goods and your expenses, absolutely a fan of. So the concept of being debt-free and having these categories that you have set up for different things, I'm okay with that. But what happens is you can really go overboard on this program. And I want to talk a little bit about what I see when I'm having conversations with people. Now, it doesn't help that we have these banks out there right now that can help you set up all these various accounts. They're more than happy to let you set up 8, 10 accounts that are all tied under one master account. And they'll even be nice and move money around behind the scenes for you. So this way, when you get paid, they take a certain percentage and stick them every single category. Sounds good, doesn't it? Do all the work for you. But here's where the problem happens. People go out and they start off with these, like I said, 8 to 10 accounts, 8, 9, 10. I've even seen one with more. But here's what happens. Because they haven't really embraced and understand the whole thing of Profit First, nor have they built up the funds for Profit First, what ends up happening is these accounts become a nightmare. Because what happens is they transfer money from this account to that account, then this account back to this account, and then this account over to this account. Sometimes they're just transferring money back and forth between accounts. The most transactions in the entire month are transfers back and forth between all these various accounts because one gets short, then they got to borrow from this one, and then this one gets borrowed over here. If you're going to do Profit First, the goal is that you're not constantly having to move money back and forth between all the accounts. You do it the one time when you get the money and you spread it out between the accounts, not back and forth robbing Peter to pay Paul left and right over and over. And I see a lot of overdraws, and these banks are taking like $30-$40 for these overdrafts. And what ends up happening is to do Profit First, quote unquote, in the way that they want, they end up costing themselves $300-$400 a month in overdraft fees because they haven't really learned how to manage the accounts. And like I said, people reach out to me and we start having this conversation, and I look at these accounts, whether I'm doing the bookkeeping side or the coaching side, and it's just this. It's a nightmare. It's a mess. And it shouldn't be that way. I'm more of a proponent that you start off with Profit First Lite and you start getting your arms around how to use the system and how to use the accounts to do it the right way. So for example, one of the biggest things that you spend your money on are expenses, right? So part of Profit First is that you have this, what they call OpEx. All it is an operational account that you pay your bills out of. So you have one main account that all the money comes in. Then you turn around and you spit it out into these other accounts. One of these is the operational account, which is what pays all the bills. And let's assume that your operating expenses are running 30%, 40%. That's basically what you're taking off the top, moving into this account to pay the bills. Now, this is the account that gets abused the most because we end up spending way more than what we should, or we underestimate. We may want to be at 40%, but that's not what we're spending. We're spending more. Profit First is to say, look, no, this is all you get. If you need more than that, then you got to go out and make some more money to put into this account. That's the theory basically behind it. But if you sit there and you're only putting in 30%, but you're running 35, 40%, you've got a problem. The other thing that happens is not everybody's the same month to month. Your operating expense is usually an average over a period of time. Well, if your business is really strong during certain months and really weak during other months, your operational account more than likely is going to be a lower percentage, if you will, during your busy months and a much higher percentage during your slower months. For example, if you on average spend $5,000 with $10,000 in sales is very different than $5,000 with only $7,000 worth of sales. Very different percentages that are tied to that. So that's one account that tends to get people into a lot of trouble. Now, if you have payroll of any kind, whether you're paying subs on a regular, you have a regular payroll that's set up and comes out, it's another great account for that, because a lot of times payroll is always paid in arrears, right? So people work for a week or two and then you pay them. And what happens is your bank account's looking nice and plump and really full of money because you haven't paid your employees yet. And then when your employees come in, it drops dramatically. And for some people, that can be a really tall, high number. So, most people, it's going to be maybe anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. But I've had folks that are up to $70,000 or more, in which case that bank account's looking really good. And then, like I said, every 2 weeks, it drops big time. In which case, the best thing for this business owner was to open up another account that only houses the payroll money. So every week they move over the payroll money, and then when that payroll comes out, that account gets really tall, then it drops. Gets really big, drops. But it's not the primary account, so the business owner doesn't have this false impression that they have all this money that they really don't have, because it's being set up and needs to be done for payroll. So when you're looking at these different accounts, I want you to really think of, what do I really need? Another one that's really important that I think people should have is a tax account. And in this tax account, you're going to do a few different things that you're going to put money into it for. One is, we know that your profits have 3 jobs, and one of those jobs is to pay the taxes on the profits of the business. So it's really important that at the end of the month, when you know what your profit is, you take a certain percentage, whether that's 10%, 15%, 20%, just depends upon where your tax situation, move that into that tax account so you can start saving up for those quarterly payments or that annual payment, depending upon how you do it. But you want to set that money aside so you're not spending it. I can't tell you how many business owners seemed shocked that they owe taxes. Part of being successful is you owe taxes. It boggles my mind. I don't think people are surprised they have to pay taxes. I think a lot of times what they're surprised about is how much they have to pay in taxes. And, on one hand, you want to be very successful. You want to be able to have a business that's making $100,000 or more, but you don't want the tax bill that goes with it. One is you got to have good bookkeeping. You need to capture all of your expenses the right way. I can't tell you how much money goes out the door that never gets accounted for because people don't have good bookkeeping set up. But then what ends up happening is they don't have the money at all. So when they get this tax bill for, say, $7,000 and they don't have a dime, they freak out, which I would freak out too if I have a $7,000 bill that I haven't saved up the money. So it's really important as part of this whole Profit First thing that you are having one of these accounts. And I always say, get a high savings account, one that actually pays you something. Most savings accounts you get like pennies, but most banks also have, or outside banks like Ally and some other ones, you can get 3-4% on your money. So while it's sitting there for the quarter or the year or whatever the money's sitting there, it's making money for you at least. But you don't want it in your regular account. So it's important that you are doing that, okay? Another thing that you want to put into that tax account is if you are retail or you collect sales tax. Remember, you are collecting sales tax for the government, and then you are a pass-through. It's not your money. It's not yours at all. Don't spend it. A lot of small business owners get in trouble because they tap into this money. But you should every day be moving money into that tax account for this sales tax account that you have. There are companies that will set up where they automatically move that. Remember, I was telling you about the banks and how they can set up the stuff. Well, once again, they can take a certain percentage and move that over. So if your sales tax is 9%, they can take a certain percentage of all the money that you've got coming in and put it over there for you automatically. But no matter what, make sure that you're taking the sales tax that you're taking in, move it into that tax account. So when you write the bill every month, you write the check, if you will, or you pay online for your sales tax, you just do it out of that account because that's where you've been putting all the money for the sales tax. So tax is another big one. So far we've got our main account, we've got our operational account that's really important. We got our payroll account if we have payroll, and we have our tax account. Those would be like the ones I would always start out with. And I'm even okay with the fifth one for savings, for retained earnings, for money that you're going to reinvest back into the business. Let's just say that you're thinking about getting a piece of equipment and you want to start putting some money off to the side. And that's where you're going to use money that you're going to save up to do a big ad campaign, to purchase some equipment, to do something that you want to do, that you're putting big purchases for the products that you sell, for example. So you can use that account more as a savings for the future kind of situation. Now, once you get to these accounts, you want to set some goals for them, right? Because we don't want to be transferring money back and forth and running out and getting these fees and everything else. So I always tell everybody, pick a number that you feel comfortable with, that you never go under. So for example, if you set your main account and you're like, look, I'm never pulling out money. I'm never going to drop below $5,000 or whatever that number is. You need to pick what that number is comfortable. And believe it or not, we all have this for our personal account. There's a number that we feel comfortable with. And if we go below that number, we freak out. You know, when we're young, it might be $1. And then as we get older, it becomes $100 and we're excited. And then it becomes $1,000. Whatever that number is for you and your business, set those kind of parameters in each of those accounts. So just because you have a payroll account and you do payroll and it's going to drop, you don't want it to drop below a certain number. You want to have a little bit of emergency money in that account. So start figuring out what that is. This way you avoid all of those fees, and you also avoid this constant transferring back and forth between all these different accounts. Now, once you really get your arms around how you're using all these accounts, feel free to go create every other account under the sun. You know, some people might ask, well, Tammy, it's profit first. I need an account where I put in my profits. You know what? That's another great one that you can add. But here's what happens. Most of you, that's the first account that you rob. You put money into this profit one, so you're hoping to take money out at the end of the month or the end of the quarter or whatever you set up. It sounds great. But that's the one that you keep robbing. So if you're going to do that account and you really feel you can stick to it, do it. But don't be setting up an account just to continue to rob it, because you're still not got your arms around the whole profit first understanding. Okay. And what ends up happening is you start this cycle of moving money in, moving money out, moving money in, moving money out. And I don't want you to do that for any of your accounts. I really want you to understand what Profit First is trying to teach you, which is to make sure that you are getting paid. And when you are focused on you getting paid, the first thing you got to do is you got to make sure that you're running a very clean business and you know where your money is all going. And that's where these accounts really kind of give you an idea of what's going on. So if you're using the operation account, it's great because you can see how much money you put into it and how much you keep taking out of it. And you can kind of start getting a feel for your business. But at the end of the day, the only way you're ever going to really truly understand your profits, and you're really truly going to understand how profitable you are, and the only way you're truly going to make sure that you get paid is to understand your business numbers. It all comes down to that. That to me, that's the part that's missing in all of that, is just drilling it into your head. You've got to understand your business numbers. And the only way you can understand your business numbers is you've got to have them. Okay. Whether you're using a spreadsheet, a QuickBooks, any kind of bookkeeping situation, and you need to do the information. You know, it's garbage in, garbage out. You need to make sure that it's good so you can look at that P&L, you can see where your money's going, and you know exactly what needs to be going on in that operations account, if you will, and how much money is coming out on the regular for your payroll. You know, even payroll, which is probably one of the biggest things that people pay, you'd be surprised how many people have no clue how much they spend on payroll every single month, because it's all automated. It's all done behind the scenes, and it's like, hey, people got paid, people are happy. Wow, what happened to my account? You know, it's stuff like that. So, I mean, my main goal here is to go with profit first has to be knowing your business numbers. They're like the yin and yang to each other. You can't set up profit first and then not learn your business numbers. It just doesn't work that way. You really need both to be successful. So just do me a favor that if you're going to go after profit first, please make sure that you're making sure you also are learning and understanding your business numbers, that you've got clean books for your business, that you're making sure that you're looking at the information. Whether someone's doing it for you, you're doing it for yourself, whatever the case may be, you need to know what the business is doing through those business numbers. And then you use the accounts to help you be successful in how you manage the money. And when you understand how to manage the money, now, all of a sudden, you can start being profitable. You can make sure that you're paying yourself and you're doing all the wonderful things and what the book is talking about. So you must know your business numbers, couple them together. Don't open 10 accounts, please, whatever you do. Start with 3 or 4. Just do the basics, get your arms around that. And then if you want to add more later, go for it. But I can't tell you how many people that start off with that, I'm going to do profit first. And they open up, these 10 accounts. And at the end of the day, they're right back to 1 or 2 accounts because it just seemed like a bust to them. It was too much work. They didn't want to do it. They realized how much money they lost trying to do it. It's a great concept. It's important that you pay yourself. And I'm okay with all the bank accounts. I really am, as long as you're managing them correctly and the way they are intended to be done. That's the most important thing, all right? So please read the book. There's a link for it down below. I'm a huge fan of Profit First, but just know the yin and yang part of it is you've also got to understand your business numbers. You need to know them. You need to understand them. You need to know how to read a P&L. You need to know what's going on in your business in order to make Profit First work. So you can want profit first. You may want profit. You might want to get paid. But if you don't even know what's going on with your numbers and what's going on with your money, no matter how fancy you get in those accounts, it's not going to help you. It just isn't going to help you. All right. Well, with that, I'm done preaching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye for now.